Hello again and welcome to Module 2 for your SciOp HyperDoc Professional Learning. Today we're going to be exploring two SciOp components, number 2, Building Background, and number 8, Review and Assessment. When we look at Building Background, like I said, number 2 of the 8 SciOp components, the features included within that SciOp component are concepts linked to students' background, links between past learning and new learning, and developing key vocabulary. Let's take a look at an experiential lesson and figure out if we can spot those features about SciOp Building Background. Take 1, Ada Karina. Es una nebulosa homúnculo. Aquí tenemos la definición de una nebulosa homúnculo. Es una nebulosa emisor y reflexivo bipolar empotrado dentro de una región de hidrógeno ionizado mucho más grande. Ahora, ¿entienden qué es una nebulosa homúnculo? Do you understand what this word means? Maybe you're thinking, why don't we see it in English? That could probably help, right? Okay, sure. A homunculus nebula. It's a bipolar emission and reflection nebula embedded within a much larger ionized hydrogen region. So I've given you the definition. Can you, in your own words, explain what this means? Let's take a look one more time at SciOp Component 2 Building Background. We need to activate prior knowledge. This means linking to your experiences or your schemata of how the world works, linking between previously learned concepts and new information, and identifying new vocabulary. If we think about the homunculus nebula definition, you may be familiar with the word maybe from an astronomy course you've taken or something you've seen or heard on television. But if we're really explicit about identifying that new vocabulary and linking this new concept to your prior learning, you'll be much more successful. We're also looking at review and assessment in this session. Remember that research supports that isolated lists and vocabulary definitions don't promote vocabulary and language development. Think back to the definitions you just saw, one in Spanish, one in English, the same definition. Did that really help you understand what the term is? Did seeing those things in isolation instead of contextualized or practically applied let you understand what a homunculus nebula is? Students don't learn vocabulary that way, and when teachers only orally introduce or define words, they still remain inaccessible to some students, especially ELs. This requires a comprehensive review of not only the vocabulary but the concepts as well. We need to link the review to our content and language objectives that we saw in Module 1 so that children can stay focused on the essential content and concepts. Students' responses should review and guide your decisions about what to do next. This is where your assessment comes in. Your evaluation, formative, and summative assessments should guide whether or not students need additional reteaching or even additional assessments to figure out where they are. Think back to Ada Karina. Are you ready? Do you know how to describe what it is? Now, if we were in a real learning environment where I was interacting with you face-to-face, I would be doing a lot more checks for understanding. Since this is an online on-demand PL, I want you to take a moment to reflect and self-assess. Are you ready to describe what it is and what might help you be more successful? In your work with students, your assessment of learning should be recursive, authentic, and meaningful, and happen throughout the lesson. There are really two main points about assessment that we'd like to make. Assessment is defined as the gathering and synthesizing of information. This lets you guide where your instruction is. Evaluation is defined as making judgments about student learning. Think of it more as guiding your instruction versus gauging mastery. Both should impact how you work with students and address their needs. These can include things like your summative assessments, formative assessments, kid notes, checklists, whatever you need to make learning meaningful, guide your instruction appropriately, and ensure that students are accessing the content. So, let's take a moment to pause and reflect. We are going to look at Ada Karina one more time with more embedded supports, and we're going to give you an opportunity to build your background first. So, at this point, we'd like you to pause the video, return to your SciOp HyperDoc Module 2, and Go ahead into the following section to build some background, and we will see you again soon.